To the Daily Drum on WHUR and Sirius XM Channel 141. I'm Harold Fisher. The warm weather is upon us, and that means recreational boating. Whether you own a boat, are thinking about buying one, or just a guest on a pleasure craft, there's still a lot you need to know to make sure your outing is safe and fun. I have a couple of experts to help walk us through the best information. My guests are Nashawn Taylor, also known as Captain Cutie. She's a certified boat captain. Also with us, boating educator Edwin Gassaway. Thank you both for joining this conversation. So important for those people who want to, try to get out there and enjoy themselves. I appreciate the conversation.
Thank you for having me.
Sure thing. So, Nashawn, let me ask you first, for those people who don't own boats and are just going to be a guest on a boat, what is it that they need to know?
The first thing they need to know, if they're ever boarding a boat, is the driver experienced, right? Is that driver capable of operating that vessel, whether it's a recreational boating or whether they're on a charter boat? The one thing you want to make sure is the person that's actually in charge and driving, operating that boat knows the rules and regulations of boating. You want to be sure that they cover over safety rules with the passengers. You want to be sure that there are life jackets on that vessel for every single person on that vessel, right? You want to be sure that there are, posted areas to include fire extinguishers even. You need to notice these safety things on the boat. The person that's operating a boat should go over these things with the guests. They should go over that, those in case there's an emergency or something, something happens and what they should do, and just to make them feel even more safe.
Mm-hmm. Edwin, Nashawn just mentioned that something could happen, and we all know that boating is not like riding in a car. You're on the water, and
correct.
Some of the issues are very, very different. When you talk about what could happen, Edwin, what could happen?
Well, thank you for having me.
Sure.
There are everything starting with weather conditions changing, mechanical failure on the boat, health hazards of the captain and first mate. All these things play a role in boat safety. I like to offer people the analogy of you wouldn't get on an airplane with a pilot who didn't have a pilot's license or some kind of formal training to fly it. The same procedure continues with vessel safety. So part of the classes that we offer, the intro class, is basically the ABCs of boating. That's where we explain to you the life jackets, the different placards and procedures, weight distribution on vessels, and how that can affect your time on the water. So there's a lot to understand to go forward and have a safe trip while on the water underway.
So run through the ABCs for me.
Okay, so the first one we always introduce to the people that sign up for our classes are just the names of different areas of the vessel, your bow, your port, your starboard, which is your right, stern, galley. The bathroom is known as the head on the boat, lines. So you familiarize people with boating vocabulary. From there, we move on to, once you arrive at a dock and are ready for launch, your pre-launch procedures. This is when you want to check your mechanical operations, make sure your engines are fine, the oil is fine, there are no leaks, and even the procedure for starting the vessel before we turn on things called blowers, which take any type of carbon monoxide out of the engine room so it can't ignite, which is a very dangerous hazard before you even get started. From there, we move on to loading procedures. So if you have most people in this area operate somewhere between a 20 and a 40-foot personal vessel. So when you load these boats up with people and coolers and all your snacks and drinks for the day, you want to make sure that you distribute the weight evenly. So when you're underway on the water, one side doesn't lean too far and throws the weight off and things fall over, fall down, and become tripping or just hazards on the vessel.
You know, Nishan, I've been out on a pleasure craft before, and one of the things that I do remember, and it, all of the things that strike me when getting on a pleasure craft, and this is not a large one, it's 35 feet or something like that, is that the captain always has this little speech about using the radio. Talk to me about that.
Absolutely. So, like I said before, anytime you board a vessel, it's not necessarily just chartering, again, recreational boating. Your captain or your person, so there's a difference. Anybody can boat, but there is a difference from a certified captain opposed to just a person that's doing pleasure, pleasure boating. However, everybody does need to have a safety certificate, right? A boater safety educated certificate. And I think that's tri-state everywhere now, Maryland, Virginia, and DC. So that's first and foremost. They have to have that to even operate that vessel at the very least. There should be a safety spiel. That's what we do on ours every single time. We go over safety and security speeches with our guests, right? So again, that is just so you know where all the life jackets are. You are the radio, you mentioned the radio, so it would be channel VHF 16 channel. So that channel is used for anything emergencies. You can call the Coast Guard. We have to make sure that that's operational before we're set underway as well. So sometimes I've heard captains mention it, other times they have not. We do checks, every time we come on the vessel before our guests come. We do the maintenance checks, we do everything before everybody boards the vessel. We always make sure that they're educated on where everything is, what to do in case somebody falls overboard, because there are things you do as far as pointing and making sure you point at the person if someone falls overboard. We also have to
explain that if you,
Yeah, so that's something we hope that would never happen. However, if something like that does happen and someone falls overboard, right, we do go over what you should do in the case of that. First of all, you got to yell out loud that someone did fall overboard, making sure that you point in the direction that they fell overboard. That way, everybody on the vessel knows, and definitely the captain will know and can hear. Because oftentimes recreational boating, you got radio, you got the music up really loud, but you have to definitely point because, remember, you're underway. So the boat is going to be moving. And your captain or your driver, this is why it's very, very important that they are experienced with boating, because there's a certain way you turn the boat actually when someone falls overboard, depending on where they fall overboard. Because remember, on a boat, you have what we call them props, but they're propellers. So propellers are very, very sharp. Those are what can injure you or kill you, right? So if someone falls overboard, you have to be knowledgeable and experienced enough to operate that boat where you do not go near them with those propellers, which means in some cases, if somebody falls off the front of the boat, you might in fact have to turn towards the person. And that's just to kick the back of the boat away, the propellers away from the person. So people that aren't experienced their first instinct may be to drive away from the person. But if you can imagine, if someone fell overboard, maybe on your starboard, or if you're facing front, that'll be the right side of the boat. And the instinct could be to drive, operate and pull away. But that just pulls the propeller into the person.
Wow.
You see, so there's a lot of things to know on the water. Everybody can buy a boat. Right? Everybody can buy a boat. Anybody can buy a boat. But it comes to, the knowledge and the experience. And that is the one reason by law you have to at least have a boater safety certificate, because that'll teach you the basic rules of the road or rules on the water, similar to vehicle registration. Vehicle driver's license, but it's just on the water. So
yeah, that's fascinating. And I think, for people who are only going on pleasure crafts for fun, they're going to turn up,
Oh yes,
but they don't often think about about these things, and I think it's really, really important. One of the other safety things that a lot of people need to really know is, the whole life jacket thing. Edwin, do you have to? I mean, if you're going to party and you're going on that white party on the boat, who wants to wear orange? Orange is not the new black or the new white when it comes to. I mean,
Right.
I mean, I joke about this, but you know, I mean, the reality is that weather can change it at any moment. So you don't have to necessarily have on a life jacket. You just have to know where they are. Correct, Edward?
Yes, the each state in this area, Maryland, Virginia, and also the District of Columbia, have different regulations for the ages of people who it's mandatory to wear life jackets. We advocate at the Potomac River Squadron classes that any persons under the age of 16 wear a life jacket from the time they step onto the dock, then to the boat, for the ride itself. And with adults that just, like you say, just want to turn up and have fun and party on it, you're not just worrying about weather, you're also worrying about rogue boats that are out there that don't know the rules, that are just going to speed through a no-wake zone, throw a wake up, and then that rocks your boat, people fall over and get hurt. And if your life jackets aren't secured in a proper manner, they can fall over, get thrown overboard as well. So there's a procedure to securing your life jackets and also having them on for your own personal safety. Safety isn't a fashion statement, it's a life choice. So the orange may clash with what you have, but in any time you feel any type of threat or you get a little nervous, it's best to err on the side of caution and just put the life jacket on. And the captain and first mate will also assist in those details and keeping eyes out for different dangers that may come your way.
Okay. So before I take a break, Nashawn, I did want to ask about that thing you mentioned about falling in the water. If you fall in the water, even if you can swim, what should you do to make sure that you are rescued, particularly if the water is choppy or what have you? What should you do?
So one of the things that we do go over in our safety briefing is what we call a throwable. It's a type 4. You can either use your cushion. It depends on the boat. So it is a throwable cushion. And we go over that with everybody. So if someone should fall overboard, we have a throwable. It's basically just a flotation device that will assist them in case they fall, whether they can swim or not swim. And our deckhands are trained in it as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be, a downer about this, but the reality is that if you don't look at some of the safety issues that, as we know, every year people lose their lives when they're just pleasure boating, and I think it's just so important for us to kind of go over some of those basic nuggets so that everybody can have a good time. But after the break, I do want to talk about buying a boat and how that works. Is it like buying a car, the whole bit? And certainly I'm interested in hearing about your experiences as well. But before I do go on a break, for people who are interested in contacting you, Edwin, how can they catch you on the internet real quick?
That would be Potomac River Power Squadron. You can just Google that phrase and our website will come up. And we offer classes, trainings, and seminars.
Okay. And Captain Cutie, Nashawn Taylor, how can folks find you?
So everybody can me. We have a website, and it's www.beyoucreate.com. And that's like be yourself, BEYOU, create.com. If you want to do a boat tour.
All right. Thank you so much. Listen, we're going to take a quick break, but don't forget you can hear this in every edition of the Daily Drum Insight segment via podcast on WHUR.com. The Daily Drum will continue on Sirius XM channel 141. I'm Harold Fisher. The original Quiet Storm with John Mons is next. This conversation continues in just a few seconds. Welcome back to the Daily Drum on Sirius XM Channel 141. I'm Harold Fisher. We continue our conversation about recreational boating safety, how to make sure that your summer boating fun is also safe. My guests are Nashawn Taylor, also known as Captain Cutie. She is a certified boat captain, and boating educator Edwin Gassaway. One of the things I did want to ask you, Nashawn, was you mentioned earlier anybody can boat, but being a certified captain is different. Explain that.
Yeah, so like I said earlier, anybody can go out and buy a boat, right? You can buy a boat, anyone. The difference is that in that case, you would in any case of buying or operating a boat, you need a boater safety certificate. However, if you want to decide to do it for chartering or for hire, in that case, you would have to become a captain. And in order to do that, you definitely have to have so many hours of experience of boating, actual boating on the water before you can even, become the captain. So there's several ways you can do it. You can go to schools. I went to a school to do mine, and they're very, very serious about the classes here, right? So some of those exams, you have to have a 90% or better to pass, not 70, 90% to pass. And there's 4 exams that the Coast Guard issues. And I went through that. It was tough. I got through it. I passed it, right? I have, like I said, over 20 years of experience in boating, or almost 20 years of experience in boating. So I was able to get through it. It was tough. I studied, but I got through it. And at that point and at that stage, now I'm able to do it for hire. So that's what we do as far as the business side goes. Again, the difference is you can go out with your family on a boat. You don't have to be a captain for that. You just need to have your boater safety certificate. And again, that will get you through the basics of the safety, things that you need to have in place just to have, people on your boat, because it is very, very important. And like I said, just to get that license itself to do the captain portion, they're very serious about that. And then
How long was the class? You said you went to school for
right.
How long did you go for, and where did you go?
Okay, so the classes can be anywhere from 4 weeks on to 1 week, depending on how accelerated. I did an accelerated course because I was just curious and eager. I would not recommend anybody do that because this class was formal class where you go every day, like school, right? And then you can go up to, I think, 3 to 4 weeks if you wanted to spread it out that way. And I went in Annapolis. It was a school in Annapolis. It was okay. I was only girl in there and I got questioned a little bit, but that's okay because I made it. I did it. So I'm happy because they doubted me, but it's all good.
You hear that, Edwin?
Yeah.
They doubted it. And today when I'm on the water, they look and stare and point and can't believe it. And I didn't seen it all. But we made it. I got there. But there's other ways you can do it. You can do a self-paced as well, where you can just take the test at Coast. The Coast Guard will issue you the test. I've known people that have paced themselves and did it over a matter of months. Just because you're working and you got other things going on. So it takes a matter of months for them to do it, which is fine. You just got to know, study and get through the exam because they're not going to get you through it unless you know that information. So that's how serious they are about the safety on the water.
Could I add one thing? The classes that we provide, we try to gear them for people that, get up, have a 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. So the way we structure our classes would be maybe a Saturday. We start around 10 a.m. and then go until about 2. And we usually do that from between 3 to 4 weeks, depending on the schedule of the people and the number of people in the class. But getting back to the safety part, I wanted to add one thing. We provide a service, a vessel safety exam for vessels. This is where our certified inspectors come, similar to the Coast Guard, and we'll do a free inspection of your vessel. And we check things like your flares, your fire extinguishers, make sure all your paperwork is up to date, the conditions of your personal flotation devices. So that's something that can help you after you've gotten your certificate, to be on the water legally. Now you want to make sure that your boat is actually up to par and it's a vessel that you can take and feel comfortable taking your family out with as well. And these exams, these inspections are yearly. So if you got one last year in 2023, That inspection does not apply in 24, so you need to get a new one done this year as well.
I'm trying to resist the urge to say that it sounds to me like you're trying to make sure that everybody is ship shape. Okay, I said it. All right, now, so
Had to say it, didn't you?
I had to say it. I had to say it. One other safety thing, and I think this should go without mentioning. Nishan, talk to me about alcohol use on the water, how serious it is, some of the concerns, whether it's for the captain or for your passengers. That has always been a concern.
Yes, it is. One of the biggest things that really annoys me is just that other operators on the water, even though we're experienced, it's just like driving. You still gotta watch out for those drivers or boaters that are just either not paying attention. You can clearly see they don't. I'm gonna tell you something. Most boaters do not know what the heck they're doing. You'd be surprised of how many unexperienced boaters that are on the water. You can tell by either the way that they're passing. There's ways that you're supposed to pass each other on the water. They'll cross you in wrong ways, and we're always having to keep a lookout for things like that. So most of the time, in my mind, I'm thinking that they're either inexperienced or they've been drinking, and you can almost tell the ones that have been drinking. The operation of them not paying attention. They're clearly not paying attention. You may see them from afar. The boat is wobbling a little bit. They don't know which way they want to go. There's, like I said, rules out there where you have to stay in the channel. So there's markers. So you may see like red markers, green markers, and you have to stay within the channel so that your boat won't run aground, right? And you'll see them on the opposite sides of those. Or in and out, not sure what they want to do. And you look at it and you're like, clearly they're either influenced or, they can't be that, inexperienced, especially if they're really wobbly. Then when you get closer, you can kind of hear the noise and you can, you obviously don't have 100% proof that they've been drinking, but it's just a hunch. You have an idea. You pretty much can identify it. As far as our passengers can bring beverages with them. We don't offer any on this vessel. We will on the next one when we finish with our license and so forth. But again, we can deny. We have denied people that have boarded and they are under the influence. That's just too much because we're all about safety, and we will deny them. They can get upset all they want, but we won't have them aboard the vessel because sometimes it's 4 more hours, and that's something that we're not going to deal with. We have also turned our vessel around and ended tours because of that. Fortunately, we have good clientele where it's not too out of hand, but we have done that before.
Are the penalties the same as they may be for someone driving under the influence as they may be piloting a boat under the influence, say in the wharf area or on the Potomac? Any thoughts about that or any information about that?
It's the same. It's enforced the same way. You're driving under the influence, like on the road, it's the same thing with boating. And we have, we have Metropolitan Police out here. You have Prince George's County Police. You have DNR out here. So they are enforcing and they are watching for things like that. You can call on another boat that you suspect and they'll come out.
Edwin, you were about to say something.
Yeah, I would say the penalties can range from Harbor Patrol telling you to turn around and return to your home port, all the way to them confiscating your vessel, and they'll tow it in with you. So you'll see a lot of that. And as far as reporting rogue boats that are out there, the largest problem we have in our local waterways from the wharf around Haynes Point or so, one of the wakes, the water that's displaced behind the boat when you're going really fast, it throws a wave of water toward other boats. And if don't see them or it's nighttime, you can get caught off guard by these. And more recently, one of the newer trends in this area are jet skis. And the people in the jet skis think that the rules don't apply to them. They're the same way as if you want a motorcycle on the road. Those jet skis can actually cause a little bit more confusion because 1, they're harder to spot, 2, and they move fast. And with them trying to jump your wake, to have some fun on the water, they can jump right over a wake into the path of another vessel that doesn't see them coming. So there's that always collision goes up a lot when you have those smaller vessels on the water. Same thing with canoes as well, because these are things that are, stand-on vessels, give-way vessels, and depending on nice breeze.
Yeah, you saw that smack me.
But yeah, definitely
I just
keep an eye
grabbed it
out
real
for,
quick.
for smaller vessels, paddle boats, canoes, and jet skis are a big thing now on the water as well.
Yeah, and in some ways it is like your basic safety on the road when you're driving. But I think that there are other considerations. So for those of you who are listening, and you may hear that noise in the back, on Sean's boat, she's got some weather coming in, just some breeze.
Oh,
and
don't hurt that. My bad.
Yeah. So so Nishan, talk to me about that, because again, the weather safety issue is also a big thing. What kind of considerations should boat captains think about, and passengers as well? Because we know we're talking about the DC metro area. Those summer storms can come in and surprise you.
Absolutely. As captains, we have to be like meteorologists anyways, right? That's something also that we study. Again, it's very important safety aspect of boating. So we're definitely checking the weather all the time. We have called off tours because of the weather. We can operate in rain. We don't like to do that. Most people don't like to either. They want a nice sunny day. Who wants to, be boating in the rain? However, we watch things like the gusts, the wind, small craft advisories, anything like that. We will not go out. We've had some people disappointed, but safety is first. We tell them, safety is first. We are not and will not go out on this day. So typically we'll postpone their tour for another day of their choice if we feel that it's unsafe to go out. But it's definitely, weather is a factor. That is something that we definitely do watch out for. And also, on the other end of the spectrum, if it's a heat advisory, we've done that as well, because you're outside, you're on a boat. We may have air conditioning on certain levels of the boat, but at the same time, it's not worth it. We'll have ice water, things like that. But if there's a heat advisory where, we'll watch that. Not all the time, but we have also postponed for reasons, of that as well.
Mm-hmm. Edwin, your thoughts about the weather?
Definitely check the weather the day before, the morning of, and while you're on the water as well. And in the instance where rough weather does occur, you always want to have somebody that's not going with you on your cruise to know your boating plans. We call that a float plan. They should know what time you're leaving, where you plan to cruise around on the water, and what time to expect you back. So if you don't arrive in your desired return time, somebody at least knows to come looking for you, give you a call to see what's going on if you need help, things like that. And also, it's not so much weather related, but it's water related. This area has what we call a mean tide system. We can have 3 or 4 feet of tide that come in and out each day, about every 6 hours. So one area of the river that may have 8 feet of water at 4 p.m. on your way to return to your home port, say at 10 o'clock p.m., may only be 3 feet of water, and you risk the running aground in those circumstances. Then you're stuck until either the water returns on the next tide or another boat can come and tow you off of it. So you also want to make sure that you check the weather and the tides for this boating area.
That's amazing. I never thought about that. Go ahead, Nishan.
Yeah, I was going to say, I agree. I'm glad you mentioned during your tour, there was an instance where we did that. We checked the weather the day before, two days before, the day before, the morning of, and still watch it, during the tour, if there's uncertainty whether a storm is going to come or not. So there was one particular day, the skies were clear, and lo and behold, we literally on the water. It's very interesting to see a system or to see rain on the water. You can literally see a wall, right? We were on Potomac River, and you could see the airport. All of a sudden, my deckhand, she taps me and she points over towards the airport. and you can just see a entire wall and a big cloud just
Mhm.
coming our way right in the middle of the tour. And all I could do, I got nervous too, because I know what that meant. Even though I'm trained, I know radar, all of that stuff. But we got a, nice little, company on the vessel. And so I told her we had to shut everything down. And literally, we had to just basically stand. We anchored, basically. We had to anchor, because trying to navigate through that would have been just crazy. Fortunately, like I said, my passengers felt really secure about it. I explained to them we're just going to hold off for a second because we got a storm coming through. The good thing is they kept partying and they did not give two hoots about it. They did not care. They didn't care. They just partied. They danced. They had a great time. On the other hand, myself and my deckhand, we were a little worried because it was just a pop-up system, just like
Right.
that. Wasn't on the radar. It just popped up. And we were like, what in the world? And it did. It passed. It was about 20 minutes and it passed. But it was pretty scary, though, because it was unexpected. But it passed. We got back. Everybody was safe. But that's how quickly things can change on the water.
Yeah, I mean,
That is similar.
and when, like she was just saying, I mean, you could be at home
Mhm.
and it's a perfectly clear day, and then all of a sudden, boom, here it comes in. So I can only imagine how that can be on the water.
Yeah, I had a similar experience. I had just finished gassing up at James Creek Marina on my way back to port to Seafarers Yacht Club, and I could literally turn around and see, like you said, the wall of water chasing my boat down the river. So we can't go too fast. There are wake zones and then sandbars and things like that. But it went from 100% visibility down to zero in no time. In those
Wow.
circumstances, you have to rely on your
Exactly.
knowledge of where you are to know what's a safe part of the river to kind of coast and,
Yes.
take the time in. What I ended up doing, I used the Pennsylvania Avenue Bridge sort of as a shield a little bit to help with some of the wind and rain so I didn't get thrown around too much. But those are the things that come up in these classes that are so important to take. What do you do when you're actually in the eye of the storm? Do you want to run for it? Do you want to go this way, go that way? What do you tell your passengers? And that's also important for your first mate or your deckhands to also know as well what to do in those circumstances. If you're around other boats, you want to get your bumpers out to the side in case somebody does bump up against you. Or if I bump into the bridge, I didn't want to cause harm to the bridge or to the boat as well. Fiberglass will break quite easily. And then you're in a whole different situation of sinking during a storm. So it's very important. Those are one of those life-saving portions of classes that you really need to pay attention to.
So
Yeah.
let's shift gears just a little bit. There are people who are listening to this conversation, and they, with all of the safety information, they're thinking, yes, I can do this. And they may be in a position where they want to own a boat. And I'm not talking about a little 20-foot
Thank you.
something. I'm talking about, or 15 foot, like my grandfather had, with his little boat. But if you want to own a boat, a boat where you might be able, where you would need to dock at the one of the wharfs, where that has sleeping quarters on it. Nashawn, where do you start when you want to shop for a boat? What do you need to know?
So I think online is a good place to start. You could start online, do your research on, if you find a broker or find a yacht company that, make sure you research who they are. One of the ways we did it was online, and then we visit there, you physically go there. So it's just like you would purchase. It depends on the size of the boat. Either you can look at it as purchasing a car, or you can look at it as purchasing a house, right? Because they're a good sized boat is going to be 6 figures, but that it's similar to that,
What's good size? When you say a good size, what is good size?
I would say more than 45 feet.
Okay.
40 and over. 40 feet and over, I would think you would, that's like buying a house, you
Yeah.
know. It also depends on the year of the boat. I mean, boats will always have maintenance issues, right? You're gonna always, if you own a boat, then you know you're gonna go through something. Whether the thing gonna break down, it's gonna always be a maintenance issue. So my recommendation is when you buy one, don't buy one too old. But boats hold their values, but you know, don't buy it too old, too cheap of a boat, because you'll be finding yourself, you know, fixing things over and over again. But on the contrary, very new boats that can be, it can be that I've heard stories about that too, because it's so many electrical components now, and you know, boards where it's push buttons, and those can be issues, right? Because you got the electronic boards and things now. But yeah, you can look at it as, I would say, purchasing a home. You know, you can put a down payment on it. You financing it. They have boat financing companies where you can do it through your like your bank or something. And you'll have a monthly payment like you would for a mortgage. The other thing that people need to consider, though, is where to keep the boat, right? So if you keep it at a marina, now you have your monthly, or however you want to pay, what that marina does, your monthly slip fees. So that's on top of the payment.
What's a slip?
So a slip fee is, just think of it like renting. So, for example, you know how boats are at marinas. Each one of them are in a space. So that is your slip.
Like your boat garage almost.
Yes, and marinas.
Space.
Yes, marinas will charge for that. You know, some of them charge as little as I don't know, like $800 a month, on up to some doing $2,000 a month, depending on the marina and the amenities and where you are. So that will be on top of, you know, your monthly mortgage or boat payment. And then, of course, your insurance. Your insurance is something that they won't even have you there unless you have insurance for the boat. So it can be pricey. But people do it. It's doable. Some people live on their boats. You got liveaboards as well. So they just say, hey, this boat is big enough. I got bathroom on, bedrooms in here, kitchen in here, and I'm going to live on my boat, as we have at the wharf. I'm here at the wharf now. And there are liveaboards the opposite direction that way. And they're nice, and people live on their boat.
Edwin, your thoughts about buying a boat?
Yeah, definitely the finances that were just shared are important. Then you also have things, your winterization of your boat. If you're going to keep it in the water over the wintertime or dry dock it on land, that can get quite pricey. There's also the financing of, you have to paint your boat every so often, and it's not like you can go to buy a can of house paint for $30, $40. Boat paint is a lot more expensive than that. You're going to have to, there's gel coats, then you have everything from different size screws that you have to maintain. And the more you stay on top of maintenance on your boat, the less issues you'll have.
Right.
But a lot of boats, if it's a price that's too good to be true, the boat's probably going to be a nightmare once you start operating it and see what's going on. Because not everybody uses a certified mechanic or a person that's been working on boats for a long time. They think because you can change oil in a car, you can change oil on a boat. It's not quite that simple. Then you have things, your sight glasses that actually help cool some types of engines. Those can crack over the winter time if you don't properly winterize them. So the next time you start your engine up, that glass is just going to shatter. Now you have the entire river trying to rush into your boat through a 2.5-inch hole in the bottom of your boat. There are also things such as the vinyl of your boat gets worn out through the weathering. The seats, the engines, bathrooms cost more, toilet, water pumps, everything that's basically that's in your house or a condo would be inside your boat as well, just a little bit more expensive. I always tell people to add a zero to the price you think you're going to pay for it.
Is boat insurance expensive?
In my experience,
go ahead.
I was going to say, in my experience, the personal watercrafts, if you have, a good driving record or you've taken the classes and the more certifications that you can accomplish, the cheaper it becomes. For instance, I've taken certification classes all the way up to marine pilot. So you kind of get a little bit of discount, but it also depends on your deductible or what type of insurance, collisions, and things like that that's in your pass as well.
Nishan, you
And
were going to say.
Yeah, I want to mention too. I forgot to mention the another thing when purchasing a boat. You would want to get is it's like an inspection or a sea trial. So that means that you would pay an external outside person to do a whole walkthrough of the boat, in the water, out of the water, just to see if it's even worth you buying it. The only downside to that is you're going to be paying somebody else to get that done. But it might be, if you're very serious about buying the boat, that's just something that has to happen. We do it every time we get one. They can be pricey and expensive. They can range from, again, $800 to $1,500, $1,600, $1,700. Some of them charge a certain cost per foot of the boat. And it's basically just a boat inspection, just so you'll know what you're about to buy.
Like a home inspection.
Yep. Exactly.
Interesting. Yeah, from this landlubber's point of view, I had to say that too. I'm trying to get in all my boating terms. But I'm just thinking from a common sense point of view, anything that you have that sits in the water at least 90% of the time, and we all know what water can do to anything, there is going to be a risk as it relates to maintenance, safety, and whether or not that craft will be able to sustain itself. I mean, obviously, you see some boats that are in tip-top shape, and then you see others that may be, what, I don't know, are barnacles are barnacles an issue? I don't know. The cleanliness and the like. I mean, how do you outside of cleaning the top of the boat, the part that you don't see would probably one of the most important things, right?
Correct. And that's when getting your boat out of the water each season, or at the very least every 2 years, to take it out, and you have to sand down the fiberglass, apply your paints to it, your anti-fouling paints, your anti-barnacle paints, and just keeping that bottom of your boat smooth. That's going to give you a better ride on the water, and also better maneuverability compared to a boat that's been sitting in the water, say, for 10 years, and that just has algae and different things have grown all over it. And also your props play a big influence in how you can actually maneuver your boat. If you have a double screw or two engines, you can operate each propeller independently. But if one propeller isn't performing up to task and the other one is, that's going to throw off your steering of the vessel. So those things play a difference. They also have a cost to it. Replacing two pillars and all that kind of stuff adds up. Draft shafts, and there are different little compartments that keep water from coming back into the boat. They need to be checked. Spark plugs go quite fast depending on your boat as well.
Wow.
So there's a lot to it. But I mean, all that said, boating is still very enjoyable. It's relaxing.
Yes.
It's one of the best times I've ever had in my life.
Me too.
I started boating when I was, actually my father and grandfather had boats. So I think I drove my first boat down to Anacostia when I was about 6 years old.
Wow.
And been boating since then, and about seeing everything. You always think you see everything until you see something that you've never seen before. It's going to happen at least once a year.
Especially in this.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have that be the last word because I'm running out of time. But I have enjoyed talking to you all and really getting a waterside view. There it is of this conversation. Look,
there you go again.
There you go again. Sean, Edwin, thank you so much. Be safe during this boating season, and I hope that we've been able to inform people. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
That is the Daily Drum for this Friday, May 31st. I'm Harold Fisher. I'm going on vacation. I'll see you in about 3 weeks. Bramante Bryant will be in for me, for News Director Renee Nash, reporters Millette Green, Bramante Bryant, producer Candace Atkins Wilson, and engineer Bobby Adams. I'm Harold Fisher. Good night and have a wonderful weekend.